Martin Popoff here from the Contrarians, back again with a little show inside our Contrarian show called Reliving Old Reviews as a Useless Tool of Confusion. That's a Pantera quote, of course. This is a show where we review an old review of a classic album and see if the writer got it right. We've already talked about Aerosmith Rocks once before. I think it was a review from Rolling Stone. Today we're going to talk about that same album with a review from Melody Maker, July 10th, 1976. So I haven't read this. I'm just going in cold. Let's see what they have to say about Rocks and see if we agree about it. Okay. So it starts off, we do get a big headline, Aerosmith, Get Your Rocks Off. We get a picture of Brad Whitford. It says Aerosmith, still an unknown quantity as far as live gigs are concerned. Rocks should go down well with the British rockers. Wow, so maybe they haven't even been, I guess, to the UK even once yet at this point. I probably knew that and forgot, but anyways. Okay, so this review is written by M.O. I don't know who that is. It's just the initials here. America has until now avoided a head-on confrontation with the big British production or stage bands. Since Led Zeppelin first smote the music biz on the far side of the Atlantic back in '69, America seemed to reel somewhat under the pressure. And when we followed up with ELP, Yes, Genesis, Pink Floyd, and the heavy metal men, Heap, Purple Sabbath, and so on, Americans preferred country rock, singer-songwriters, almost anything except the type of arranged music with glamorous lead vocal package. You know, I've always said this in my whole Who Invented Heavy Metal. That's another series we've got going on. Check those out. We've got about 5 as I speak that we've done this. I think a Blue Cheer is going up possibly today. But I've always talked about how it was really odd how America sort of sat out the whole first part of the 70s when it came to these good metal bands. I always talk about how we've got the Stooges and MC5 and Mountain and Cactus, and that's about it. And the very first heavy metal album proper is Montrose. But yeah, so here's Aerosmith in 76 rectifying that. And I think the writer here, M.O., is going to be sort of talking about that. But yeah, this is a good encapsulation of how, the UK has all these massive prog institutions, and it also has all these massive hard rock institutions. And where was America, right? There was Grand Funk Railroad, of course, but nothing quite like Queen to add to the long British honors list. That was until Aerosmith. I suppose it was the mixture of instrumental prowess, musical attack, and dash of flair that attracted me to the first Aerosmith album when it arrived on our shows virtually unheralded a couple of years ago. I'm still not a rabid fan of the band. We haven't even had a chance to see them yet. And of course, they are bound to upset most critics by appearing to follow a time-honored course. Dull stuff for rock writers, really. Just another group that appeals to the vast mass of kids. Yeah, so, what can you compare it to? It's crazy. I mean, we get another mention of Grand Funk Railroad, which I don't think is a very heavy band. And Queen, I think, is miles ahead of Aerosmith. I think Rocks is an absolute masterpiece, but Queen is just on a whole nother level. So I like the mention of Queen and saying nothing is quite up to Queen. I can almost see the heads bobbing to the beat of Back in the Saddle at the Odeon Hammersmith, even now. What have this hugely successful combo in America got to offer then? I can almost hear resentful skeptics sniff with hostility and suspicion. So they haven't even been to the UK yet, and all of a sudden, and they aren't even that massive a band, but already, this writer saying the UK kids are about ready to knock them down. Probably resentful because they haven't come up until whatever point that they do eventually get there. Okay, a certain je ne sais quoi. Steven Tyler is the arrogant, ill-tempered lead vocalist of the Saturnine features, who looks as if he might give Freddie Mercury a severely slapped wrist if they crossed laser beams. But some nice writing there. It's pretty cool. A nice comparison with Freddie. But most impressive is the relentlessly riffing guitars of Joe Perry and mighty Brad Whitford. While Steve is shouting out the vocals on Last Child, listen to the Whitford guitar. He co-wrote it with Steve. Dig into as nasty a riff as has been blasted forth since Jeff Beck was hooked up with Carmen Appice. So again, what I like about doing these shows is these comparisons with old bands, and here they are comparing them old Jeff Beck and Carmen Appice, and it's weird that Last Child is pulled out of here, because to me this was always just sort of like a mid temperature funky Aerosmith song. There's like 4 or 5 songs that are way, way better on this album as far as I'm concerned, or nastier, to put it that way. Not to put too fine a point on it, they cook, and the guitars send those icy fingers along the spine. Dig the way the hi-hats belt in a la John Bonham on the fast Rats in the Cellar, a kind of tribute to the canyons of New York City. Solid vocal harmonies, driving guitars, what more could a simple rock fan request? And for a more laid-back taste, there are those chiming chords and who-like aggression of Sick as a Dog. I don't know what's particularly who-like about that. A most listenable stomper, followed by the even more raucous Nobody's Fault, with Tyler getting almost apoplectic. Yeah, absolutely. Tyler Steven is amazing on this album. What a great performance. Joey Kramer is the man in the engine room, a blur of flailing crash cymbals and detonating tom-toms, and he kicks along a boogie epic like Get the Lead Out with angry vehemence. Depending on your philosophy, it's irresistible stuff that will get knees pumping in the 3 quid seats and groans from scribblers in the freebies. I think it's a finely drummed album, but it's a conservatively drummed album. I don't think Joe Perry is some manic crazy guy in here. Steven definitely is. But yeah, it's funny mentioning Get the Lead Out again, because this is also a plodding song like Last Child. And I don't know what the point is of really pointing this one out. I love Sick as a Dog. I think Sick as a Dog is the second greatest Aerosmith song of all time after Draw the Line. And in my audio podcast, History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff, a very recent episode was the 5 greatest songs ever written. And I put Draw the Line in there, and we went through it second by second, almost, what makes that song so cool. But at the risk of being cut dead at the annual Rock Writers Convention, I find the sensuous rhythms and animal pulse of Lickin' a Promise just one of many erotic selections, a strangely heady brew. They could keep up this electric hullabaloo based on the familiar backlog of rock riffs all night, and I'd feel no pain. The review ends, and it's by CW, not MO. The column's long story. I've got it all cut out here like this, right? So yeah, this is by CW. It's probably Chris Welch, right? I would imagine. So that's the end of the review. And I love that. I think Lickin' a Promise is probably the second best written song on this album. I love Combination, Rats in the Cellar, Nobody's Fault. I mean, those are all the super headbanging ones on it, right? But yeah, Sick as a Dog isn't particularly headbanging, but I think it's the smartest written song on here, followed by Lickin' a Promise, which is just explosively stonesy. It's like the absolute epitome, perfection, platonic ideal of what you might want out of the Rolling Stones. I imagine Keith Richards would listen to that riff and go, wow, that's a good one, right? But yeah, I think this is an absolute classic. And Chris Welch basically gets it right. He points out some of the weirder songs on here, which is kind of odd, but there's some really nice writing in there as well. So there you go. That's been another Reliving Old Reviews is a Useless Tool of Confusion, an Aerosmith Rocks review from Melody Maker. Please like, subscribe, let us know what you think of this review of Rocks, or my review of this review. And, we've got perch, we've got merch, we've got a Ko-Fi situation, all that fun stuff. Talk to you later. Go listen to some Aerosmith Rock.